This is WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM, and we have with us at Wizard Andre Smith. He is running for the Illinois House of Representatives for District 5. How are you, Andre?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for inviting me for this topic that's so important to not just the people residents in the 5th District, but the state of Illinois.
And Andre, first of all, tell us what is the geography of District 5?
District 5 consists of 8 wards, which is the 42nd ward, the 34th ward, the 4th ward, the 3rd ward, the 20th ward, the 6th ward, and the 8th ward,
And
the 5th.
So these are the wards in Chicago.
Yes.
Okay. And also, what about the neighborhoods? Could you give us a rundown of the neighborhoods that you would represent if you win the election?
Well, you have the South Loop, you have the business and residents that's downtown, one of our important business districts that was affected a great deal by COVID. You have South Loop, you have Bronzeville, you have Washington Park, you have Chatham, and you have River North, Streeterville.
Well, that's a lot of geography to cover. On the whole, how many representatives represent Chicago? And then you would be one among how many?
Yeah, I believe it's 116 or 119. I would 180 somewhere around there. I would be one in the 5th District.
Oh. And so there are, what are the other, do you have any idea about, I know you have to concentrate on your own district, but do you know how many other districts there are that also cover other parts of Chicago?
Do I know that other districts that's cover?
Yeah, that cover that you would be working with.
Oh yes. I will be working with the 6th District that joins the 5th District, and the 26th District that connects the 6th in the 5th District, things of that nature.
Okay, awesome. And what in your background, why did you decide to run for Illinois House of Representatives?
Well, I decided to run for state rep in the 5th District because I seen the decline of the 5th District through the school closing, through crime and carjacking, through actually 2 young men just got shot and I believe killed in South Loop. So so many people have moved out of the 5th District, and because of crime and they don't have the money to sustain their business and things like that. I talked to a couple of seniors, that can't pay. They gotta decide whether to pay for their medicine or rent. So the 5th District need a lot of attention.
So the 2 young men that got killed, were those the 2 students at that school in the Loop?
Yes, there were.
When you started to run, when did you decide to run? What was the turning point that helped you decide you had to run for this position, and why run for this position instead of some other position where you could be an influence?
Well, I used to be a community activist, and sometimes I still go out and fight, crime and, mentor young men and women and things in that nature. I decided that I had no option but to run because just being an activist wasn't creating or changing laws that affected the people in the 5th District. So that's why I decided to step up, because there was a great void in the 5th District. The representative that's there now was appointed, and then soon that she was appointed, she was in the Sun-Times newspaper for covering up a sexual harassment scheme. So we cannot allow things like that in the 5th district. We need people that they can touch, that they can feel, that they can call, and then don't have any bag luggage, baggage.
Mhm. And when so what is the legislation? What are the pieces of legislation that you have in mind that the current representative isn't doing? And have you done research about whether those pieces of legislation have been introduced in the State House?
Well, yes. There's a couple of things in mind that I want to tackle, day one once I'm in office. One is want to support a bill that was on the books, but now not on the books, which is repealing recalling the mayor. I believe that the Mayor Brandon Johnson need to be recalled. So we need to push that because when people are heading in the wrong direction, we need to give the voters the power to, if they want to recall someone, in regards to this migrant crisis. The mayor took our vote away and not allowed us to vote whether we wanted a sanctuary city or not. So therefore, I want to give the people the vote back, their voice. Their voice need to be heard. The other thing I want to do is repeal House Bill 3751, which my opponent voted yes and support. What House Bill 3751 does, it's in effect now, January 1st. What it does is allow non-citizens, illegal migrants, to be police officers in the state of Illinois. That is a slap in the face and totally disrespectful to our men and women in blue that had to have a certain level of education, had to have a good, clean background, had to go under a extensive investigation in regards to not having any, to be proven worthy to be a police officer.
Well,
Now you're going to allow cartel, drug members, criminals to be police officers in the state. That need to be repealed.
For House Bill 3751, is that just taking their immigration status out of the picture? Would they have to get the education, get the credentials in order to have everything else that a police officer needs to have in order to become a police officer, except for their immigration status?
Well, it's a path or a shortcut, and it's unfair for people that has been mistreated and just coming out of an atonement of mistreatment for police officers. Now we're about to allow criminals that don't know the districts, don't know the city, don't know the Constitution. And as I stated before, they're fighting police officers as we speak. They're breaking into people's homes. They're selling drugs. They're putting their middle finger up and calling Black women puta. And puta means the B word. We're allowing, and my opponent is allowing and voting yes for them to be police officers in the state of Illinois. We're heading the wrong way, and that's why I'm running for 5th District State Rep in Illinois.
So has HB 3751 been passed yet, or is it still in committee?
Well, thank you for asking. It passed January the 1st, so it's in effect right now as we speak.
And what is the process? Are the migrants being trained now to be police officers? What's happening?
Well, that bill is in effect, so they can be right now, today, they can be a police officer in the state of Illinois. So when you say a state of Illinois, you're talking about state troopers, state of Illinois. You're talking about police officers in not just Chicago, other counties, that represents the state of Illinois. And I'll say that, not only did Brandon Johnson, give millions in the state, my opponent as well gave millions and millions of dollars to non-citizens that did not pay into our tax system. that came over illegal and trying to make illegal legal. You cannot make illegal legal. You know, there's a process that many people came over the border and they are still waiting on today their leadership. I mean, their papers to be legal citizens, you know, and they went by the law, by the book. Now you're going to allow the cartel that came over to sell heroin, opium, that's killing our people, and you're going to overlook people that's under the bridges, veterans that served our country. You're going to overlook people that got hard times and lost, you know, because maybe they had a dream and, you know, they became unfortunate, so they didn't have any money to pay the rent. So now they're on the street homeless. These are the people that we should be taking care of. And these are the people that Andre Smith in the 5th District are going to look for, you know, and going to go out and help, not the migrants.
Are there others that have similar views as you and that are trying to get this in place to help the homeless and help the veterans who are on the street? And are you working with them?
I'm working with a lot of different people, and I'm willing to work with anyone that's willing to work with me only if they're on the right side of history. You know, because
could you give us some names of some individuals and organizations who have these similar views as you? They are trying to help the homeless and trying to help the veterans. So at least our listeners know whom you are working with.
I'm working with residents that's in Woodlawn. I'm working with residents that's in Washington Park. I'm working with Sherelle Nichols. I'm working with Joseph Williams. I'm working with a ton of people. But one thing you can guarantee and you can count on, I'm not going to be mixed up in some pay to play. I'm not going to be mixed up in turning my back against the people. You know, I can't afford that. You know, we have been hurt too much. You know, if you look at our city, you look at our state, we're going the wrong way. And it's time to turn this thing around.
When you present these ideas about funding, is there pushback? Do people say that there isn't the funding that to get to in order to do what you want to do instead of what they're using the funding for the migrants?
Well, thank you for asking that question. Many people that live in Chicago have seen their dreams shattered. They became hopeless. And they had hope because that's what Obama talked about, a change and hope, faith. Now we look at our schools being closed or closed, 50 of them. And this mayor today want to close 49 charter schools. So, and they tell us the Skyway was sold. We don't have grocery stores in our community. Our young kids that wake up every day and look across the street or walk down the street and look at a closed school, all of that was due to lack of funding. We did not have the resources, as they said. But when the migrants came illegally across the border, and it came to the sanctuary cities, that the residents did not allow or were not allowed a voice.
Well, I think that the sanctuary city came into place under Lori Lightfoot's administration, right?
No, it came in under Harold Washington administration.
Okay.
But it came in under Harold Washington administration, but we didn't have illegal migrants invading Chicago or sanctuary cities. Then Lori Lightfoot was the mayor, you know, and now Brandon Johnson. Even though Harold Washington may have had the vision for allowing a safe city, sanctuary city, that was then. Now we in 2024 where we have computers and cell phone and digital things. So much have changed. So that vision then is not the vision now. So when the migrants came over and invaded the city, he wasn't intended on this to happen.
And he was intending for what? what kind of
I'm
sanctuary?
sure if Harold was here and he was able to speak, he would say, this is not the vision that I planned for Sanctuary City for Chicago to be invaded, and the taxpayers, our seniors, and everybody that put into the tax system is not getting either the reparations or the repairment for the damage that was done. And their kids being kicked out of schools because of lack of funding, and people are being put into the schools because now we have found funding. Harold would say that is not why I call Chicago Sanctuary City.
So was the sanctuary city kind of based on the police department not cooperating with ICE?
Can you say that again?
Was the sanctuary city main idea being that Chicago would not cooperate with ICE in requesting information from detainees to give to ICE?
I would disagree with that, because elected officials and the police officers have one thing in common. They both said that they would uphold the law, and trying to divert the law in regards to allowing something illegal to remain illegal. That's go against our Constitution. We are a city, state, and a country based on laws. So you can't come up with sanctuary city, a language to curve the law. Illegal is illegal.
But when you talk about there being not enough funding that is being applied for our homeless and our veterans, have you spoken with people who said that there is enough funding for everyone if only the rich were taxed more equitably? Have you heard about that? And yes, first that question.
I heard about that, and I think that is that's why I'm pushing recall on the mayor, because there was not a need to tax the rich to provide for the migrants.
Well, no, we're saying also that there would be funding, there is enough funding, and that the rich could be taxed in order to fund both the migrants and also the homeless and the veterans who need that extra help.
So, as I stated, there's no need to overtax and continue to keep taxing because you come up with ideas that need funding. I say that we need a investigation on where all this wasteful spending is going, and stop trying to tax the poor, the rich. You know, a person, if they made a certain amount, they deserve to spend it on how they will. You can't take from them to provide for something that's illegal. The funding should have never went to migrants. That's why all of that need to be under investigation. You have $46 million going to a small restaurant to provide for migrants. That need to be looked into. This sound like pay to play.
Did you ever do a FOIA, a Freedom of Information Act, requesting information about where that money came from? Well, we kind of know where the money came from, but it doesn't harm to have it stated out exactly where that money is going to, who is behind, who is that, how that the money is being used.
Well, I don't have the time today or within the next 30 days. My election is real quick, and I have to put all my resources and my mind focused on talking to the voters to get them to understand that we need a change in a direction. But for people that's listening, and they have that time, for the lawyers that's listening, we need one federal investigation on the money that's spent, because that is federal funds, came from the federal government for COVID, not for migrants. And then we need to look into how is it possible that the finance chairperson has given the mayor a blank check to do what he want to do.
finance chairperson of city council, and who is that?
That is Alderwoman Pat Dow, who is over the finance chair for the mayor, that allowed him to just do as he pleased with our money.
And what about the federal government? They provided the COVID funds. Did they have any say about not wanting Chicago to use the funds this way?
Well, as you see, there's a fight, a henhouse fight. The mayor and city councilman, they are trying to vote and make sure that he has not the power, or to take away his power and just spending our money recklessly. So now they're trying to put a cap on how much he can spend by himself. And then other than that, they need to vote for it. But our finance committee chairperson, Alderman Pat Dow, allow the mayor to have a blank check and do as he please with the taxpayer money, and that is unacceptable.
As a House of Rep, as a representative as an Illinois House rep, how could you change this?
Well,
What the mayor is doing,
well, we need first to recall him.
and how much support do you have behind you? Do you have any other people who are already in the House, or other people who are running for office that agree with you and want to work with you on this?
Well, as I go in the communities, in the community, talking to voters, their heart is broke. They've seen millions and hundreds of millions of their dollars, their tax dollars, and their children walking past schools that they were kicked out of lack of funding. They're frustrated, and they want the mayor out. They really wanted to vote on Sanctuary City, but the mayor himself said no. He suppressed their vote. He took away their voice.
So when was there supposed to be a referendum that some citizens asked for a special referendum to vote on Sanctuary City, whether to end it?
Many of the registered voters in the city of Chicago spoke to their alderperson and asked them to put that referendum on the ballot. It was a big chaos and division and big in-house fight that I have never seen before in city council in regards to allowing the registered voters in the city of Chicago, the taxpayer residents, to choose if they wanted a sanctuary city or not. But Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, said no. He silenced and took away the vote for people that live in Chicago, taxpayers, to decide if they wanted to mark Sanctuary City or not. He did not allow, and we talk about a democratic way. That wasn't the democratic way or the democratic process to silence someone's vote.
Isn't it the Chicago Board of Elections that gathers these referendum and these suggestions to put it on the ballot, and don't they decide based on some criteria whether it gets on the ballot or not?
Well, bills and referendums, they come from elected officials that's passed down to the Board of Elections that gives the registered voter the option of the choice to support it or not. But Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, didn't even let that process play out because he decided that he did not want the residents in the city of Chicago to have a choice or not.
So you're saying that Brandon Johnson forced the Board of Election to not put that on the ballot after some citizen asked to put that on the ballot?
Many of the seniors that I spoke to, they can't fathom, they can't understand. Their mind is discombobulated in the regards of how our city is being ran. How is millions and millions and hundreds of millions going to non-citizens that the taxpayers that worked hard on their backs that Skyway was sold, schools was closed, no grocery stores in their community. Crime is on an uprise, and carjacking is all across the city. They can't imagine how is it possible that these millions are going to illegal migrants.
How much is going to the migrants of taxpayer money, and how much is coming out from the COVID funds? So do you have any of those numbers?
From my understanding, I know we was at well over 600 million from the state and the city. And not too long ago, there was 94, 95 million of COVID funds that the Mayor Brandon Johnson decided on his own free will against city council approval to give that 95, 94 million dollars to the illegal migrants. That by itself should be against the federal regulations, against the federal law. You can't use federal money for a legal process.
But did the federal did the federal government try to stop the money from being used?
Well, federal government don't stop processes that's illegal. What they do is look into it, and usually it takes 3 years, 4 years, because they have to build up a case. So I'm sure that the federal government is tuning in to this station. And I'm sure because we're talking about it. And I'm sure that that is going to be looked into.
What about people with disabilities? It seems as if there are so many issues with they're not getting the services that they need. Uh, how are what you're talking about now? How do they how does this lack of funding affect people with disabilities? And have people with disabilities spoken with you?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. Yes, I do talk to people that's disabled. Um, it's a sad day in Chicago. When you walk up and down the street and you see people that was born here standing in front of stores with a sign asking for money just to eat. I spoke to a 91-year-old woman, senior, and her husband passed. And she called 311 and she said, I just want something to eat. I'm hungry. And they told her that she didn't qualify.
Because she was not a person with disability?
Well, yeah, she's disabled. She's on a walker, and she's 91 and her husband passed, so she's all by herself, but she was hungry.
And then did they give her a reason why they wouldn't help her?
They told her she didn't qualify.
Well, thanks for telling us that, because that is worthy of a FOIA or an investigation. We heard that if seniors and if people do need food or housing, that they could call the city and the city would help. For housing, it would be graduated steps, but for food, it did not seem to be that difficult to get food.
Yeah, well, this young lady, as I stated, she's 91, bad needs, and she's on a walker, so she's not the normal person that can just walk out of a door and go and stand in the food line, and we have millions, not millions, we have a lot of people that's in that situation and that's under bridges and, you live in Chicago, I'm sure you've seen our veterans and things like that, Tent City, and other places, that our people need the assistance that they're not getting.
What happened to the 91-year-old woman?
Well, I'm in contact with her daily and, took food over there to her and, she was on TV. She was on Fox and Friends, so that story is out there. You can Google it.
And what about other people with disabilities? What other stories have you heard about them not getting the services that they need?
Well, thank you for asking that. There was a young lady a homeless woman on, I believe it was 63rd. So she was somewhere on Stony Island from 64th to probably 60th at a bus stop. She was homeless. That's where she lived, at the bus stop. And She, during the wintertime, she got both legs amputated, both arms amputated, and she passed. She died. She was homeless. Now, if you look less than a half a mile from where she was, they have Wadsworth School where they allowed 600 immigrants to be there, to be housed, to get cell phones, money, link cards. And a lot of them now got cars. But you couldn't have the money or the funds or nobody to help the woman that was at the bus stop, that was a registered voter, and she lived in the city of Chicago.
What is the process for a migrant getting a vehicle?
Well, and excuse me for laughing, but we Brandon give them the money. You know, if I'm not mistaken, I heard it's like $9,000 that they get.
Well, what I heard was that the services that they receive are worth the $9,000. Like the help with the housing and the help with the food, and but they don't actually get the 9,000 in their pockets. That's what I heard, unless I'm mistaken.
Well, they get money and they send some of that money back to where they come from. You know, and if you look, you'll see migrants driving up and down the street, having cars. Some of them don't have license plates or anything on it. You know, they don't have driving license. You know, I mean, so that's insane.
And these statistics that you say about the migrants being uh, involved in crime, are they based on police reports of migrants being arrested? Where do you get the facts?
Well, you see, if you look at the news or you just Google, right? Google migrants in New York attacking police officers. Just recently, it was 4 or 5 migrants that jumped on police officers. It's on YouTube. If you Google migrants, because we live in the city of Chicago, migrants getting arrested in the city of Chicago. They're getting arrested for robbery. They're getting arrested for carjacking. They're getting arrested for drugs. They're getting arrested for having guns. And they got arrested for attacking police officers in Chicago.
So have the crime statistics went up since the migrants arrived, and then how much? And then how
Well,
much of the crime was actually linked to the migrants? Do you have any idea?
well, I don't have the data, you know, but once again, you can go to your local CAPS district and get that data, you know, or you can wait to uh, the superintendent, you know, give you his report. But crime has went up. You look at it. They said on TV that it was 400 and something carjacking. I think within a week or a month. Have we had that before?
It seems as if the carjackings have been rising a lot even before the migrants arrived, and it's just we just get so used to it.
So you think that we had 400 and something carjacking within a week or a month?
I would have to check on it, but we've heard that there have been a lot of carjackings over the years, and the migrants actually came en masse since August of last year, I think, or either 2020, August of 2022 or 2023, can't remember. Was
Yeah,
it 2022 or 2023? Do you know?
well, let me clear the record. Let me clear the record. So when you have people, the cartel, coming across the border, some of these people were murderers. Some of these people got out of jail, and you have a small amount that just want to come over and, you know, have the American quote unquote dream. But the cartel seen an easy way to enter into,
I understand what you're saying. Do you have
but the radio audience don't understand what I'm saying.
do you have the figures about how many are in the cartel and how many are in the are actual migrants that need to come in? Because you know, if you have the numbers about how many are which, then we get a better idea and about where you got the data.
Well, no, I don't have the data, and neither do the U.S. government has the data because they're not checking people as they come across into the border. So once they get over into the border and get into our cities, invade our cities, then we see opium and we see heroin and all those drugs on the ground. If you want to go with me, we can go right over to Wadsworth, and I'll show you today heroin packages and opium packages on the ground.
Well, if you could take some photos and send them to us, and then we will help share them around.
Well, what we can do is I will send you a clip that I did with Fox and Friends, and they pointed out the heroin and the opium packages on the school of Wadsworth, where nobody is over there but the migrants. I'm going to send that to you. And I want you to come back on this station and say Andre was right.
And what about the police? The police were not notified?
Oh, excuse me from laughing, but the police was just invaded. The police station was just invaded by the migrants. The police had no power to put them out, to arrest them. How can you arrest a person with no ID, with no address? I mean, you can arrest him, but even if he give you a John Doe name, he ain't gonna come to court because you don't know who he is. There's no record of who these people are.
So right now, if a police officer were to arrest a migrant, they will have no way to charge that migrant because the migrant does not have any background or ID. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that when the migrants came over and crossed the border, there was no check and balances like the normal people that is waiting on their citizenship that done it the right way. The migrants came over. Some of them had committed crime and don't show up to court. How you gonna find them? They go from shelter to shelter.
But isn't it? Are they go to shelter? So right now you're saying that the shelters do not have any record of which of the migrants that are in their shelter. No record at all of the residents that are in the shelter.
No, I didn't say that. What I said is that the crime that's being committed by these migrants. Let's give you an example. Let's go to Wadsworth in Woodlawn. About 8 to 10 of those migrants attacked the family right across the alley, that lives there. They bust out their windows. They call women puntas. Matter of fact, they robbed seniors, beat up seniors, and the police was called. Nobody went to jail. So those migrants that was there, I believe they put them out, but they didn't do nothing but go to another shelter.
So in other words, they were kicked out of their shelter, but then they just went to another shelter.
Yes, and I say to you because you like facts. Call the 3rd district and inquire about it.
3rd district. And what is the approximate address of the Wadsworth and the street across where their family lives?
Wadsworth School is 64th and University. And the family lived right across the street.
So they were injured, and their property was criminalized as well.
Exactly. And nobody went to jail.
What about before the migrants came? Was there what was the atmosphere? Was there like not that much crime? Was there any crime?
Well, there's always crime. When people don't have the right opportunities, and the right resources, it's going to convert to crime.
So, since the migrants, as you say, are committing crimes, then what about the other crime? Is that also there, or how has it changed? Do you know?
Well, there has always been crime, but when you close 50 schools, that's criminal. When you don't allow good grocery stores in communities that deserve them, that's criminal. When
Yeah.
you, hold on, when you don't allow good access for people, or you don't allow access to people, and I'm going to talk about Black people that don't know where they came and who they are. They don't know the third generation of their great grandmother. That's criminal. And all of that need to be repaired. And that's why also I'm fighting for reparations.
So what you're saying is that a lot of our African American citizens do not have a family history because of what they went through, and the history just was not kept.
I wouldn't say what they went through. I'll tell you this. I am the great grandson of the first Afro-American woman school teacher in West Virginia.
Mhm.
Her name is Carrie Williams. And what she did was, during the Jim Crow era, she fought for equal pay and equal rights for all color students and color teachers. And it passed. It had to go through a process in 1864, but it passed. And that was 100 years before Brown versus Ed. And nobody talks about that.
Well,
Well, they talk about it in West Virginia, but the sad thing about knowing your history is not talked about in other cities. And that's why it's so important that we have reparations to repair the damage so that we'll know our history and we'll know who we are. And Barack Obama even wrote our family a letter saying that it's women like Carrie Williams, my great grandmother, that have paved the way for people like him. And he stands on their shoulder. And he was thanking our family.
When you say that it's important that Brandon Johnson is recalled, so let's say that you're able to recall him, then what you as a U.S. rep, I mean, as an Illinois rep would do effort to improve the situation of the community if that happens?
Well, once we get Brandon Johnson recalled, then it will allow the people in the city of Chicago to breathe again. It would allow them to choose the right leadership that would govern them equally and fair, unlike now.
What do you mean by equally and fair?
Thank you for asking. There's a difference from the north side and the south side. There's a difference from the west side and the south side. They talk about zip codes, and if you live up north, you will live 20 years to 30 years longer. If you live on the south side, you would die 20 years, 30 years quicker. If you look at the south side, you have a lot of pollution. You don't have good grocery stores. Our gas stations are our grocery stores. And our family reunions are funeral homes now and repairs. So we have to change that. And most of those 50 schools was closed in the Black community, south and west side. So we have to stop the criminal activity and the assassination on the Black community.
How does Brandon Johnson benefit from closing those 48 schools? Do you know?
Well, let me say thank you for asking again. Brandon got its start with CTU as an organizer. CTU mission is to close the charter schools so that the people do not have a choice. My young son was in public school. The teacher told me that my son couldn't read, couldn't write, and he had a learning disability. And I started to believe her because she was an adult, she was a teacher, you know, and till we took my son out of school and put him into a charter school. It didn't take long for him to start writing, for him to start reading. He excelled quick. And now he's within the top 3 of in the school. He's the captain of the football team, and he has over 20 scholarships in urban prep. So I am a firm believer that charter schools work.
Do you know what the charter school did differently from the public school?
Yes, they educate our kids.
Well, just and what way do they educate the kids differently?
See, the difference between charter and public school, CTU, they organize to put elected officials in that's only going to give them money and that's going to push their agenda. Charter schools have a choice. If you look at so many kids that's in these charter schools, they're graduating. You look at urban prep, it's at a 98% to 100% of graduation. All Black men, young Black men. And CPS, they wanted to close urban prep, but they wanted to keep the model. So you tell me.
So you're saying that they're keeping the model to use in CPS, but they're closing the school. Is that what you're saying?
Well, that's the intent. And I heard them say that they wanted to keep the model because the model worked. Well, if the model worked, then the operator that put the model in place, the visionary, put the model in place. How can you take the visionary of the person that created the model out of the system and enforce the model? It ain't gonna work.
What about other cities in addition to Chicago? Has this a similar pushback against charter schools happened, and what was the result of that?
Can you say that again?
Has the same situation happened in other cities so that we could have a model to base on Chicago compared with other cities?
I would say this. I live in Chicago. I hear things in other cities. I don't focus on that. That's the president of the United States issue. I focus on what's happening in the state of Illinois and what's happening in Chicago, because I tell you this, every day that I get up and open my door, across the street is a closed school, and it was a potential site for the migrants. But I told them, if you attempt to put migrants across the street from me, it's going to be a price to pay. So they're looking for other sites for the migrants. That's why the governor said, the mayor haven't gave me any other sites, to put the funds in for the migrants. And could it be that Brandon want to close these other 48 charter schools to put migrants there?
So does that, have you heard that that might be the case, or are you just speculating right now?
I'm speculating.
What about in other parts of the state? Are there any similar problems with charter schools, or do they not have charter schools like in Chicago?
Well, they have charter schools, but one thing when you hear things, charter schools, because of the political resources of Chicago Teachers Union, charter schools get this bad look, this unfair attention, the littlest thing happen, they try to blow it out of proportion, to make people afraid or not want to put their kids in charter schools. But I tell you this, with all due respect, if charter schools were so bad, why would the president of the Chicago Teachers Union have her kids in charter schools?
How long has she had her kids in charter school for how many years?
I don't know. I haven't spoke with her.
Mm.
She won't talk to me.
So you are in the election now, and how many signatures did you get versus how many that you needed?
In signatures, I needed like 600. I got about 1,800, and I deleted around 200, so I ended up with around 1,600. And I had to get more than enough. And I had to make sure that every signature counted, because I'm unbought and uncontrolled by the party.
Did the party, did anybody challenge you, your signatures?
They couldn't. They was bulletproof.
And how hard was it to get the signatures? Did you have to pay for signatures? Did you have to, how did you get all those signatures?
Well, and I'll tell you this too. 5 people pulled my petitions.
Mm.
I think 2 law firms, the Speaker of the House and other people, pulled my petition.
Mm.
And they went through them, but they couldn't challenge me because they know I had more than enough. And I had people that volunteered, that helped me, that believed in me, that believed that the 5th District need a new leader, and that leader is Andre Smith. Mm-hmm. They took their time to go and get these signatures because they know that they believe like I believe.
And when you have these volunteers, do your volunteers want a job with you if you get elected?
No, actually, the volunteers just want to breathe again. They want to believe again. They want to trust again. They want to be able to walk down the street without somebody trying to take their car or knock them in the head to take the little dollar that they went to work for, and they got paid and they went to the country chain and ain't nobody standing in front asking for some change. They want the state of Illinois back working again.
And what you're saying is that when people are encountering these elements, either the crime or the panhandling, all of them are the migrants and nobody else.
No, you didn't hear me say that.
Well, then, what is the proportion? Just
well, crime. Look, criminals or crime need a job. That's why I'm creating build a trade and not a sentence. So when a person get locked up because of their circumstances, you have contractors and good paying jobs, union people that would sit down and talk with them and mentor them and ask them, do you want to learn this trade? And then send them through the process, and that person go to court with them and say, Your Honor, he's willing to be part of build a trade and not a sentence. And then the judge give him a leniency because this guy is now about to turn his life around. And because he got locked up, now he can go on earn $60,000 a year because he's now a welder instead of an inmate.
Are you part of that organization? What is your work in that?
I'm the author of it. I created it. And I plan on, when I get to state representative, I'm planning on trying to put a bill together to pass that.
Oh, okay. So right now it's an idea, or are you already implementing this plan?
It's an idea that I have also talked to construction owners and police officers that's willing to be a part of it. And they say it's a great idea.
And did you run before? Or is this how many times have you run?
Well, it depends on what office. I ran for alderman probably two or three times. I ran for Cook County Commissioner, which I almost won. I spent around $28,000 versus a candidate that spent $264,000, had all the endorsements, and I came up 1,000 and some votes short from winning.
Mm-hmm. Who was your opponent?
Now?
Yeah, now and also when you were running for Cook County Commissioner, if you don't mind me telling.
When I ran for Cook County Commissioner, I ran against Commissioner Dennis Deere. There was 19 wards. I spent around 28,000. He spent 264,000. I had probably I would say about 28 people working for me at the polling places, and I almost won in 19 wards. That was a lot to cover, but that's because the people are ready for change.
How
And,
many, yeah, go ahead.
go ahead.
How many volunteers did you have for the races? What do, just approximate?
When I ran for Cook County Commission,
Yes.
I paid them.
Mm. Yes. And
You
that
know,
was
you can't, you can't have, the Bible and the Quran says a man or a woman in debt is a slave, which means that you have to pay people, for their service. People, they may believe in you, and that's fine, but you can't mistreat people.
yes. And getting signatures and knocking on doors and also being a poll watcher is does take a lot of time and energy. What about what is your day job? Because you are so busy and with the organizing and all this the election work. What is your day job? How are you able to survive? Because I don't see you having time for anything else.
Well, I was a finance manager. Now I'm a car salesman. But I'll tell you this. I learned a long time ago. If you want something, you got to be all in. You got to put everything across the line. And that way you don't have anything to go back to if you lose. So you can't afford to lose.
Mm.
That's why I need people that's listening, that believe like I believe, that we need a difference. We need a change. We need a real leader that care about the people in office. I need them to go to my website, which is Smith for Fifth, and join our mission. I need your help. I can't do this without you. Go there, donate. Go there and sign up to volunteer. Go there and say, I'm going to call 4 people and tell them about Smith for Fifth. I need your help.
And also, you spoke about your plan for getting people to work, with the mentoring and all that. What are your other plans to improve the community if you are able to recall Brandon Johnson?
Well, when we're successful in the recall for the mayor, Brandon Johnson, then we will put out a search for the next mayor. And once that person is vetted, I will stand by them and work with them to become the next mayor to lead our city. Because we have to have someone that's not selfish, that's not that put a team together that's able to correct the wrong. In other words, people around me don't go along with me and don't agree with me just to agree. If I'm wrong, they're going to tell me. And if they're right, I'm going to repair, I'm going to atone, I'm going to apologize, and I'm going to make the right decisions. And that's what a good mayor needs. They need people not just to be around them and that's not afraid to say, hey, look, Mary, we shouldn't do that and not lose their job. A good leader take criticism, but only the right way, the right criticism.
And when you mentioned that you would vet the candidates to replace Brandon Johnson, whose responsibility, like which entity, which government is responsible for replacing Brandon Johnson if he gets recalled?
It would be the city of Chicago.
Mm. But then, if you were to win your House of Representatives seat, you're saying that it would be just the city of Chicago voters that would vote on the replacement.
Yeah, each city is represented by a councilman or a mayor or a trustee, and their obligation is to elect a mayor that they trust or believe in. Now, once that mayor breaks their trust, then they should have the right to recall that mayor. And that's why we need to recall Brandon Johnson.
And are there any other plans that you would implement if Brandon Johnson were to be removed? How would you make the community better?
Well, I also believe that we need to fix the language of Sanctuary City. Once we recall Brandon Johnson, we need to change the language of Sanctuary City because the mayor and city council were not prepared, and still today is not prepared for the invasion of the illegal migrants that reside here. There's no plan. They're just giving out, as I stated before, a blank check. And the taxpayers is going to have to fit that bill.
How much is in the hole right now that we owe that has not been paid of the funds that they used?
Well, I say that in a little while you're going to have to look at your tax bill. When your tax bill go up, you know. So other than that, I would say around 800 million.
And that is based on how much have we spent?
Wasn't no we. It was Brandon.
Right. How much has Brandon
Brandon spent around 600 million.
And it's continuously being spent right now. About how much per day would you say, or how much per month? Do you have any ballpark figure?
You know, they stated that it was like 1 point something million a day.
Right. And that is to cover about 38,000 migrants that are in the city right now. They have entered the city since I think August 2022.
Yeah, we're still getting some every day.
Okay.
So let me ask you this. Do you think that we can afford to continue moving in the path and a direction under this administration, writing a blank check with a bill just for 35 to 38,000 illegal migrants, and we're spending $1 million and something a day? Do you believe we can continue going down that path and have a stable community, a stable city?
I think that what we need is to have actual the actual expenditures, actual budget, what we have, what we spent, where that money came from, what the bills are that are coming up, and we need to do a basic accounting of bookkeeping of all the expenses. But of course, that will require a lot of Freedom of Information Act requests to get all that information. Without the actual information, there's no way to tell. And of course, we need to figure out how much we need, how much is available, how much can be taxed, and everything. It all requires that the information.
Okay.
There's no way to tell without that information.
Okay, now I'm going to go back because you like statistics, you like proof, you like evidence. My language was, do you believe that we can continue going down the path of spending $1 million and some dollars on immigrants in the city of Chicago? Do you think that we could continue doing that every day after we spent over 600 million and have a stable city?
Well, let's put it this way. We have spent a lot of money before on the defense budget and many things that do not directly seem to benefit the everyday lives of, say, the homeless people and all the like the veterans that you mentioned. So if there is that money to spend on those things, I'm sure that they will find money to spend on other things as well.
So, again, do you believe, that's a yes or no, that we could continue going down the path of spending $1 million and some dollars after we done spent over 600 million on immigrants, illegal migrants, and still have a stable city?
Well, have you heard about what I was speaking of? It's an ongoing expenditure. The budget of the U.S. And Chicago have always been huge, and we're still here now. Why do you think that we're still here now with all those expenditures that we have happened in the past?
Well, that's why we're borrowing money from China and other places, and we're in debt, trillions and trillions of dollars in debt, you know. So, but we're back at Chicago, and you never answered the question, you know. It's a yes or no.
It's hard to tell without the facts. It always depends on the facts.
Okay.
I would not answer any questions without the facts. That's why you had your positions, and that's why I asked for the facts, because it seemed as if you had the facts in order for you to have your positions, and I respect that.
Okay, I respect it as well.
Well, thank you so much, Andre Smith, candidate for Illinois House of Representatives, District 5, for joining us on WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM today. And if our listeners want to learn more about you or want to contact you with more questions, what should they do? Where should they go?
Once again, thank you, and thank you, radio audience, and those that's on social media for tuning in and giving an ear to the issues that I have addressed. You can go to smithforfifth.com and volunteer, get more information about me, even if you want to donate to the cause. I really appreciate it, and I thank you all so, so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was very good, very helpful. Okay, let's see.
Thank you so much.